When you think of Australia, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Koalas hugging trees, the Great Barrier Reef, and of course, the most iconic of all, the kangaroo, the national symbol printed on the coat of arms, on money, and on team jerseys. They appear everywhere, and you'd think people worship them, right? Not exactly. In fact, the opposite is true. Today, more than 50 million kangaroos live in Australia, nearly double the human population. And the government is encouraging people to shoot, hunt, and eat the very animal that represents their country. Sounds unreasonable? When we first heard it, it felt pretty cruel. But behind it is a much longer story. All right, let's begin. Australia once turned killing kangaroos into a full-scale industry. From the late 19th century all the way to today, Australia has run controlled culling programs, resulting in millions of kangaroos being shot every year. The Australian government grants permits to kill an average of 1.5 to 2 million kangaroos annually. In 2018 alone, that number exceeded 3 million, more than the total number of crocodiles killed across all of Southeast Asia combined. In Queensland, there are areas where more kangaroos are shot than livestock. Kangaroo meat is exported, their hides are used in sports equipment, and the kangaroo industry brings in over 100 million USD per year, providing jobs for thousands of people in remote regions. For many communities, kangaroos are their only source of livelihood. A hunter in New South Wales once admitted on ABC News, "If there were no kangaroos, we'd lose our living, but they're also destroying our fields every night." Kangaroo leather was once used by Nike, Puma, and Adidas to make soccer cleats because it's lightweight and extremely durable. But pressure from animal rights organizations forced the global supply chain to change. In 2021, Nike cut ties with its last kangaroo leather supplier. By 2023, Oregon, Nike's birthplace, proposed a law banning all products made from kangaroos. But the most shocking part is this: the more kangaroos are killed, the more their numbers increase. In fact, many human actions accidentally create even better conditions for their population to explode. Everything began in 1788, when Europeans arrived on the continent and unintentionally turned Australia into a breeding paradise for kangaroos. Kangaroos reproduce very quickly, but their numbers were still manageable until humans nearly wiped out the dingo, the only predator capable of keeping kangaroos in check. Thousands of dingoes were poisoned, trapped, and shot, to the point where ecologists now call it the silent extinction of the dingo. If you want to know why they disappeared, leave a comment below. We'll make a story about it later. Next, humans built more than 2 million wells, ponds, and artificial water troughs across the country for livestock. The result? A vast desert that was once harsh suddenly became a 24/7 all-you-can-drink water buffet for kangaroos. A harsh desert suddenly having more water than ever before, something kangaroos never experienced in their evolutionary history. Abundant water and abundant grass unlocked the full, almost unreal reproductive potential of female kangaroos. One baby nursing, one in the pouch, and another embryo in a paused state waiting to be activated. Just one heavy rainfall or an ENSO cycle, turning the grasslands green again, and millions of females switch on at the same moment. There were periods where kangaroo populations increased by up to 40% in just one decade, even when humans were already hunting them. Climate change is making everything worse. Formerly wet regions are becoming drier, perfect habitat for red kangaroos. Wildfires burn everything, but just weeks later, lush green grass returns. In New South Wales, people have recorded herds of hundreds of kangaroos rushing in like magnets right after the fires passed. Continuous wildfires and explosive reproduction have made kangaroos appear everywhere. But the real crisis began when they flooded into areas where people live. In Canberra, where residents jokingly call it the kangaroo capital of the world, kangaroo numbers are now 6 times higher than in the 1970s. Many schools have had to put up steel fences to protect playgrounds, and golf courses are forced to hire professional kangaroo herding teams because the animals treat the lawns like their living room and casually lie right across the fairway. In Brisbane and the Gold Coast, security cameras frequently record kangaroos hopping into tennis courts, soccer fields, even breaking into houses and jumping into swimming pools. One frustrated Gold Coast resident said, "You chase them away, and they just come back like you're the one invading their territory." But the most intense conflict happens in farming areas. In New South Wales, kangaroos eat 15–20% of grape production, and barley farms can lose up to 30% if a mob gathers near the fence line. For cattle ranching, farmers lose around 5 to 10% of productivity because kangaroos consume grass meant for livestock. The government estimates agricultural losses caused by kangaroos at up to $4 million USD per day, a number big enough to turn frustration into outright anger. The ecosystem isn't spared either. Kangaroos overgraze, wiping out native vegetation and causing soil erosion. Ecology professor David Payton warned, "In many areas, kangaroos eat so much that the ground looks like man-made desertification. When the vegetation disappears, small marsupials, birds, and reptiles that depend on natural grassland vanish in a domino effect." Few people know kangaroos also carry bacteria and parasites that can spread to livestock, degrade soil, and fuel disease outbreaks in cattle and sheep. Many farmers even admit they fear kangaroos more than mice, foxes, or rabbits. Conflicts intensify when kangaroos slip into the most dangerous places, highways and unprotected national roads. They are the leading cause of vehicle-animal collisions in Australia, especially at night, when they suddenly jump onto the road. These crashes mostly occur on rural routes. Insurance companies estimate that Australians pay between 100 to 200 million USD every year for car repairs, injury compensation, and property damage caused by kangaroos. And even worse, 1 to 4 people die each year from hitting a kangaroo. And although most hospitalizations related to kangaroos come from car accidents, kangaroos can attack people. One Australian study over more than 10 years recorded only 40 such attacks, but experts believe injuries caused by kangaroos are becoming more common. Scientists explain that this is because their natural habitat is being disrupted by wildfires and urban expansion. For example, in 2013, Green Party member Shane Rattenberry, well known for jogging and cycling, had an unpleasant encounter during a morning run. He startled a female kangaroo and it attacked him, leaving a deep gash on one leg and bruises on the other. Another attack happened to 77-year-old Peter Eade. In 2022, a kangaroo charged at him in an area about 24 kilometers northwest of Albany. But the kangaroo was his own 3-year-old pet, and no one knows what occurred between them. Later, his family found him badly injured. People often believe the last recorded fatal kangaroo attack happened in New South Wales in 1936. Experts say that while kangaroo attacks occur fairly often, they are very rarely fatal. But you must always remember these are large animals with sharp claws and teeth. And of course, if a kangaroo feels cornered, an encounter can be extremely dangerous. The main issue in human-kangaroo conflict is that both stand upright. A man standing on 2 legs looks to a male kangaroo almost like a challenge to fight. In this sense, kangaroos don't distinguish themselves from us, and this becomes far more dangerous when the male is fully mature. For instance, in May 2025, a kangaroo tried to drown a man in Australia after they got into a scuffle. Don James had to fight for his life as the animal held him down in a roadside stream. He only escaped when the kangaroo seemed to panic. Otherwise, it might have finished the job. And let's be clear, kangaroos are everywhere. Truly everywhere. In dry inland regions with sparse populations, people often say kangaroos have reached plague levels. But in reality, their numbers are rising not only in remote areas. For example, on the way home through the suburb of Ainslie in Canberra, you might see a mob of about 20 kangaroos crossing the street. And they won't be in a hurry. They like to stand and stare at cars, hop back and forth. To be clear, Ainslie is not some remote town. It's classified as an inner north suburb, just about 3.22 kilometers from the city center. But in Canberra, this is nothing unusual. Locals say they've been used to it for years. Do you remember earlier when kangaroos were encouraged by the government to be culled? But after public criticism, that is no longer allowed, and Australian law now goes even further. Killing a kangaroo illegally, even if it is attacking you, can lead to fines up to 20,000 USD. People suffer damage, but they themselves risk becoming criminals if they fight back too hard. A resident in New South Wales complained on ABC News, "It destroys my garden, injures me, but if I hit back, I'm the one who gets fined." But the bigger problem is this: when kangaroos aren't culled, they reproduce even faster. Australia is being forced to look for new solutions. And right when the debate reached its peak, a wild idea, something that sounded like a joke, suddenly spread across social media. Can't control kangaroos? Then bring in Burmese pythons to take care of them. Have you ever heard of this species? The Burmese python is one of the largest reptiles on Earth. They live mainly in tropical forests, swamps, and riverbanks across Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. In the wild, they're known as a predator of opportunity, a hunter that takes any chance it gets. Recently, in 2024, scientists discovered that Burmese pythons can swallow prey even larger than previously believed. You probably already know they can swallow deer, alligators, and all kinds of animals. But their menu is still limited by jaw size, meaning their mouths must open wide enough. It turns out the biggest pythons have mouths that open wider than mathematical models predicted. Earlier studies measured maximum gape around 21.8 cm, but the largest python ever captured could open its jaws up to 25.4 cm, an increase of about 40% in total mouth area. And some individuals were measured with gape widths over 81 cm. Honestly, their mouths are unbelievable. A python's lower jaw is not fused at the front, so both sides can spread apart, and their skin is soft and extremely stretchy, making up more than half the mouth's circumference. Why am I telling you this? Because it means pythons can swallow prey much larger than we once imagined. Based on all available data, scientists concluded that pythons kill and eat animals that seem almost unswallowable. For example, researchers once observed a python eating a deer weighing about 37 kilo, which is roughly 2/3 of the python's own body weight. This means that, in theory, a Burmese python could swallow an entire kangaroo. And catching a kangaroo wouldn't be that difficult either. Burmese pythons spend about 85% of their time lying still and are extremely hard to detect because they are masters of camouflage. Camouflage is essential for ambush predators like them. Usually they stay completely motionless until they suddenly strike at passing prey. An attack starts with a bite to anchor the prey. Then comes strength and speed. A python coils rapidly around the animal, squeezes tight, and then swallows it, sometimes while the prey is still alive. People used to think pythons kill by suffocation or crushing, but research shows it's more complex. For example, a rat dying from simple strangulation usually takes about 4 minutes. But in some python attacks, death occurs in just 1 minute. Why? Scientists believe pythons disrupt the prey's circulatory system, doubling its blood pressure to the point where the heart can't pump enough blood to the brain, lungs, and other tissues. The result is death by cardiac arrest or stroke. And this fast kill method would work frighteningly well on a kangaroo. Florida is living proof of that statement. Ever since Burmese pythons invaded the Everglades, raccoon populations have dropped by 99%, opossums by 98%, bobcats by 87%, and countless bird species have disappeared entirely. Swamps that once echoed with nighttime wildlife are now silent dead zones. One ecologist described the phenomenon with a chilling phrase, "a massacre beneath the waterline." To measure the extent of their destruction, scientists conducted a field experiment using European rabbits, one of the fastest reproducing animals in the world. The results stunned experts. In a short period of time, pythons ate 2/3 of the rabbits. In many areas, they consumed up to 20% of the population every week. This means it's not just a few individuals being killed, entire communities are wiped out within months. With that kind of power, a sarcastic question began spreading across Australia. If pythons eat rabbits, cats, foxes, pigs, could they eat kangaroos too? In theory, the answer is yes. Burmese pythons can easily swallow small kangaroos or medium-sized adult kangaroos because their jaw opening and swallowing mechanisms exceed what humans can imagine. In fact, there are videos of native Australian pythons swallowing a juvenile kangaroo without any difficulty. But the more important truth lies in what comes next. Burmese pythons cannot survive where kangaroos dominate. They need dense forests, shade, high humidity, and swamplands. Kangaroos rule deserts, dry grasslands, scorching sunlight, and water scarcity. Without hiding places, pythons starve. Without shade, they die of heat shock. Without swamps, they cannot reproduce. And if, hypothetically, they somehow adapted, then Australia would face a new ecological catastrophe, a Florida-style disaster, but far worse. But to understand why some Australians are desperate enough to even think about bringing Burmese pythons to deal with kangaroos, we have to look at the current reality. Australia is the most heavily invaded country on Earth when it comes to destructive invasive species. More than 80% of all modern mammal extinctions in Australia are directly linked to invasive animals. Leading the list is the feral cat, a silent predator that kills over 1 billion animals every year. With 11 million cats spread across more than 90% of Australia, they wipe out birds, reptiles, and small mammals so efficiently that one ecologist once said, "Feral cats alone are enough to cause a continent-wide extinction." Next is the red fox, introduced from England for recreational hunting. Today, it has spread to almost every state and kills hundreds of millions of native animals each year. And the worst of all is the feral pig, often called an ecological bulldozer because it tears up soil, destroys wetlands, eats turtle eggs, and competes with livestock and kangaroos for food. These three species are the reason some people started entertaining the idea. If Burmese pythons can wipe out raccoons in Florida, maybe they could take care of cats, foxes, and pigs in Australia too. It sounds like a joke, but the idea spread quickly because it seems logical. Burmese pythons can swallow rabbits, cats, small foxes, and even baby kangaroos. But scientists immediately warned, bringing Burmese pythons to Australia is not a solution. It's a brand new level of ecological disaster. Pythons do not distinguish between pests and endangered species. Once they slip into the forest, they will eat anything that fits in their mouths. Wallabies, quolls, bandicoots, baby wombats, even species already on the brink of extinction. And if you think, Australia is huge, what's there to worry about? That is exactly the deadly misunderstanding. Australia is the most vulnerable continent on Earth to invasive species. Its ecosystems evolved in isolation for tens of millions of years, meaning native animals have no natural defenses or instincts against new predators. This is why just one red fox introduced in the late 19th century caused wallaby and small marsupial populations to collapse across vast areas. A single feral cat can kill 5 to 20 birds per day. Rabbits cause soil erosion across an area larger than the entire United Kingdom. Cane toads, originally brought in to control beetles, have spread so widely they now kill freshwater crocodiles. Even with 14 species of native pythons, from carpet pythons to scrub pythons over 7 meters long, capable of hunting rabbits, foxes, feral pigs, and small kangaroos, Australia is still overwhelmed by the 57 invasive species already established. The invasive populations are simply too large. Every attempt at restoring ecological balance is drowned out. So what happens if you add another apex predator like the Burmese python? The answer is undeniable. You wouldn't just double the disaster, you would create a new ecological kingpin that can never be removed. Florida has tried for decades, spent hundreds of millions of dollars, used traps, trained dogs, and even drones, yet Burmese python numbers still rise year after year. It proves that once this species takes root, the ecosystem becomes completely uncontrollable. But after all the arguments, experiments, complaints, and wild ideas, one truth remains that nobody can deny. Australia cannot defeat the kangaroo. And strangely, in this conflict-filled story, kangaroos are not just destroyers, they also bring benefits that few people acknowledge. By constantly eating tons of dry grass, kangaroos accidentally reduce the fuel that feeds wildfires, something extremely important in a country where fire seasons last for months. Unlike cattle and sheep, the kangaroo's digestive system produces almost no methane, one of the most powerful greenhouse gases. Some ecological studies even show that the presence of kangaroos reduces the need for herbicides. And of course, they are one of the national icons that attract millions of tourists to Australia every year. So what Australia needs is not to eliminate kangaroos, but to learn how to live with them, and most importantly, bring back their true predator. Not the Burmese python, but the dingo. Many studies have shown that kangaroos only become truly cautious when dingoes are around, the predators that have coexisted with them for more than 4,000 years. In areas where dingoes disappeared, kangaroo numbers increased 300–400% within just a few decades. Today, many ecologists are proposing something that has sparked fierce debate among farmers: restoring dingo populations. Some states have begun testing reintroductions in areas where dingoes were previously wiped out. Professor Ewan Ritchie, a leading carnivore expert, puts it bluntly, "If you want to control kangaroos, let nature do the job." But is Australia brave enough to bring back the very predator they once tried so hard to erase? Alongside that, Australia is also entering an era of modern solutions, technologies the competitors never mention, tools that truly belong to the future. Fertility control vaccines like Gonacon are being tested to reduce the reproductive capacity of female kangaroos. Several regions are deploying drone sedation, combining drones and tranquilizers to relocate kangaroos safely without injury. LiDAR is now used to measure kangaroo density month by month, while AI models forecast seasonal population changes so governments can make smarter culling decisions. Some highways have installed kangaroo detection systems, sensors that detect kangaroos and warn drivers from a distance. And even urban areas are starting to test smart fences that automatically open or close depending on animal movement. All of this shows that Australia is not heading toward a war to exterminate kangaroos, but toward a future where humans, wildlife, and technology are forced to coexist. When we look beyond Australia's borders, we start to see that the problem of wild animals exploding in number because their predators are gone is not unique to kangaroos. Many other countries have also paid a heavy price for trying to control nature with humans instead of letting ecosystems balance themselves. In the United States, the white-tailed deer, a species that seems harmless and adorable, has become a true ecological nightmare. After wolves and mountain lions were hunted to near extinction in many states, deer populations exploded. From 1900 until now, the deer population has increased more than 100 times. The result? Hundreds of thousands of traffic accidents every year, more than $1.2 billion in insurance payouts, and forests being eaten clean, preventing young trees from growing back. In New Zealand, the disaster is even worse. About 30 million possums introduced from Australia are destroying native forests at terrifying speed. Possums eat 20,000 tons of vegetation every night. Many forests have been stripped bare, pushing kiwi and kaka birds to the brink of extinction. New Zealand has been forced to use helicopters to drop 1080 poison bait, a deeply controversial method, just to keep the forests from collapsing. Ecologist Bruce Warburton once admitted, "Without controlling possums, New Zealand will lose half of its forest ecosystem within our lifetime." Sound familiar? It's the same story as Australia, only replace kangaroos with possums. Even the United Kingdom is drowning in a red deer crisis. After wolves went extinct in the 18th century, red deer numbers surged, wiping out young vegetation in Scotland and preventing forests from ever recovering. Every year, the British spend tens of millions of pounds culling deer, but the government still admits human hunting cannot replace the role of natural predators. The common thread across all these countries comes down to a lesson that seems simple but is incredibly hard to accept. When top predators disappear, ecosystems spiral out of control. No steel fence, no rifle, and no crazy solution can replace the role that nature has perfected over millions of years. And the kangaroo story is just the clearest example. From rabbits in New Zealand to white-tailed deer in the US, from possums to feral foxes, invasive populations only explode when humans break the predator chain at the top. Now, Australia faces a major choice: correct the mistake with science and restore nature, or continue repeating the cycle of control, collapse, control. What do you think Australia should choose? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. The next stories will be even more fascinating.